So we're continuing in our exploration, really, as we use the movie of The Matrix as a springboard kind of for discussions. And one of the great things, as we know from the movie The Matrix, that, you know, here it was the main character who was living a life of illusion that he thought was real, and of course he woke up that there's a completely different world and it's a completely different situation that's going on. Okay? And of course it all had to do with the computer, and he was a hacker, and he was hired to go ahead and, you know, actually was recruited, right? Because the person basically who was involved in what they would call the rebellion basically woke him up in order to, because he thought that he was the Messiah. Okay? Basically he thought he was the one that was going to end this war between the machines and between man. And the way we've been looking at it for the past few classes, if anybody remembers, we'll just do a little recap. Now we have in our world, to compare it to, we have our souls, our godly souls, and then we have the world or the realm of the klipa, which means the husk, which means this physical world. Okay? Adam in the Garden of Eden, before he had sinned by eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, of course, he wasn't necessarily in the same form that we are today. He was basically in what we call the mental form, okay? Thoughts. Very sublime and very spiritual. And only after he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil did he have to get dressed, so to speak, in the physical form and the bodies that we have now, okay? Which is our physical realm, with all of its enticements and all of its distractions, okay? So even though that God really built, in the very beginning, he built the evil inclination, he had to build a realm where there would be an arena where there would be free will, where there would be what we call the klipa, or the husks, the shells, our skin, our bodies. Even though that he had built it, or basically he built the basic framework, when Adam had eaten from the tree of knowledge, what happened was he gave what we will call an enhancement to the realm of the klipa, to the realm of the husks, to the physical world. Okay? An upgrade. Okay? The realm of the klipa was on a low level. It was like your iPhone 4. Okay? And when Adam ate from the Garden of Eden, so it got upgraded instantly to an iPhone 10. Okay? In other words, the klipa, the realms of evil, became much more sophisticated and much more dominant. Okay? And that's the realms that we're in now. Okay? Our situation in this world right now, we're encapsulated, and it's more evil and it's very little good. Okay? According to all the Kabbalists. So the main thing that, even though this thing was bugging, and going back to the storyline that Neo was bugged, what is the Matrix? Okay, we understand the Matrix is this level of klipa, the level of physical husk, the level of illusion that we're all caught up in. The world of illusion. He was bothered by it, and then of course Morpheus, he suggests to him, here, you want to know what the Matrix is? I can't tell you, you have to see it for yourself, but once you see it for yourself, that's it. So he presents two pills, of course, the red pill and the blue pill. Okay? He says, if you take the red pill, you get to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. In other words, you'll get the experience of what the Matrix is. And if you take the blue pill, you'll wake up tomorrow, like the next morning, and it'll be like any other day, and you'll go through life day after day. Very dynamic kind of proposition. Of course, Neo takes the red pill, and as an effect of taking the red pill, he wakes up in a completely different reality, and every single thing that was his world, right, was really not real. He was living in a dream world, okay? Very much like us in the end of days, where it says, and when God will return the captives of Zion, we would have been like dreamers, okay? Meaning we're going to look back at our existence. There'll be a day, and we're going to go, whoa, that was so real. That was just a dream. Okay? Freaky. Okay? But it's not just enough just to wait for whenever that day will come, which should be soon. Okay? Where we are all woken up. We have to initiate. We have to initiate our own wake up. We have to take the red pill. And the question is, what is the red pill? And what is the blue pill? How do we look at those things? Okay? Thank God we have a Torah. Thank God we have, because if you look at it in general, of course, God came and we had a revelation at Mount Sinai where God gave us the red pill. Okay? Before God gave us the big red pill, which is the Torah, right? And all of the mitzvahs, humanity was in a very dilapidated state, just falling apart, stumbling on its own 2 feet. Basically just banging its head against the wall. Basically it was just all bad. There was only one school that existed until Mount Sinai. Now we call the school of hard knocks, because there's only 2 schools. There's a school of wisdom, where you get smart, and you listen to people who are smarter than you. Never can happen, never. Right? Not for teens, because they're all smarter. Right? Right. Okay. Before the whole event of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, there was only one school, and that was the school of hard knocks, which means trial and error. Okay? Basically what happened, all of the generations fell. Every single generation, right? Since Adam, 10 generations till the flood. After the flood, then there was the tower, the dispersal, the Tower of Babel, right? Sodom, right? Exodus from Egypt, all part of the plan, till finally the giving of the Torah. And when we got the Torah, of course, here we have the direction, the instruction manual for life. All my years when I was growing up, before I was religious, I was raised in Los Angeles, and I looked at life and I'm like, it's so complicated, life. Isn't there an instruction manual? If God made us, I already came with the conclusion that God made us because our systems are way too complicated to say that we were an accident. Okay? Me and my friend Eric Eisenberg were in biology class, right? And it was going all over, physiology of the human body and, how the complicatedness of white blood corpuscles, red ones, and how everything works in this unbelievable harmonious balance that is constant. We would just look at ourselves and go, oh my God, who made this? Someone had to make this, right? It didn't evolve, it couldn't be. It's too complicated. It's too big. That's the famous designer proof, okay? You don't find a watch in the desert and say, wow, this watch came here because over billions of years the sand gathered with the sun hitting it in a precise moment, that's how this watch came to be, okay? It evolved over billions of years, this watch. Not going to happen. Or as the famous parable that my father-in-law, Zechusa Yegain Aleinu, may his merit protect us. My father-in-law says, if you take a bottle of ketchup, and he was from Brooklyn, so he talked from Brooklyn accent. You take a bottle of ketchup, you throw it on a wall, how many bottles do you have to throw and it's going to come out of Rembrandt? How many bottles do I have to throw against the wall and one of those times is going to come out of Rembrandt? Right? Come on. That's the million monkeys in front of a million typewriters typing Macbeth. We've all investigated those, right? Of course. All of a sudden there's one monkey goes, okay, right? After like 20 billion years. He's got perfect Macbeth, perfectly, okay? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Until then, it was really a hard situation, Kulo Ra, until we got the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. The giving of the Torah is the red pill. The giving of the Torah is the wake up. The giving of the Torah is the ability to navigate through life that I always wanted. I was looking for an instruction manual. And when I came to yeshiva, instruction manual, perfect. Exactly what I needed. I'm sold. Okay? But of course, you have to follow the instructions. Okay? So the idea really is all of the mitzvahs, let's say, we're going to investigate 3 little mitzvahs here today. Okay? 3 little mitzvahs. Little. Not so little. No mitzvahs little. Okay? 3 mitzvahs which are, because really every single mitzvah is a red pill. Okay? A red pill that's meant to wake you up and bring you closer. The word in Hebrew for mitzvah that they literally translate to as, how do they translate mitzvah? What's the normal command, the more normal translation that everybody, commandment. Someone said commandment, right? It's not that, right? That's King James. Thank you. We like to look at it as opportunities, but you have to get into the exact literal version of what it means. Mitzvah comes from the word tzavat, which tzavat means connection. Okay? It's totally different than what everybody's been used to. Commandment, like, it's hard to relate. Okay, we do usually use it like that. Some people will look at Rabbi Rieti instructions, 613 instructions. The Zohar looks at it, actually there's two words for mitzvot. Two words for mitzvot. One is called itin, which means eitzot, which means advice. And the other word that it uses for mitzvah is pikudin. Pikudin is a very interesting word. Pikudin also actually means deposit. Deposit? Okay, what do you mean by deposit, right? Advice, deposit. And the idea really comes out from the Sulam that he explains, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag, that he says when the people stood at Mount Sinai, they said the words, when they were, presented with the deal before the whole event, right? A few days before, Moses says, okay, we got this deal. And the people said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear, right? We will do and we will hear. No one does that these days. Yeah, I'll sign the contract, just what's in it? Who cares, right? I'll just sign it, right? Right? So people want to know what's in the contract first. I don't sign anything until I read the contract. There they just signed, right? It wasn't even because the idea really is this. It was really, and the angels got really upset. The angels going like, who dares use our mode of operation? Who stole our secret? The angels were actually shaking, like someone stole our technique, right? The technique is this, and it explains this. Eitzot, advice, we can all understand that. That's where the word na'aseh, which means then Jewish people says, we will do. We'll follow the advice. Pikudim, which means deposit, which means once we do the advice and fulfill it, then we will access, we will do, and we will hear. Then first we will do, and then we will hear. Hear doesn't mean literally hear, it means understand. We will grasp. We will connect. In other words, within every mitzvah, there is a deposit of light within the mitzvah. That's why it's called advice and deposit. The mitzvahs have within them a deposit of light, a string. They have the superstring theory. People have told me, I haven't read it inside because as soon as I get after the 4th chapter, I'm lost. Okay, I'm sorry. I tried several books, this book. I keep going back into it. I'm like, I'm still lost. Okay? But it's just 613 superstrings, whatever. We'll talk to a little bit about that last time. But the idea really, when they said we will do and we will hear, we will follow the advice. We're going to do the advice because we know that we are not going to be able to access the light until we do the advice. Until we do the action of this mitzvah, we will not be privy to the light that is contained within the action. Okay, you follow? Very much like going to a gym. You cannot go to a gym with your frappuccino, mocha frappuccino, grande, okay? Sit and suck it while everybody's doing their yoga, schwitzing away. Schwitzing means sweat, okay, if you don't know that. New Yiddish word for the day, schwitz, okay? Write that down. You're going to be tested. What is schwitz, okay? Okay? You can't be drinking your frappuccino, your mocha frappuccino, while everybody's schwitzing away. And after the end, while everybody's wiping their sweat, and you're going, oh, that was really great work. And then you get back in your car and you drive away. The benefit of the exercise is 0, okay? You get nothing, okay? Because you didn't do the action, right? If you don't practice it, you're not going to get the benefits of it. So the same thing by the mitzvot. If you don't practice it, you cannot reap the light that is deposited within, okay? The red pill, okay? So that's why the Zohar calls it those 2 words, itin pikudim. And that's why the literal translation of mitzvah is connection, because it's a way to connect. But you can't connect from a distance, right? I've got something pretty staggering that maybe someone shared with you in the past lectures here. We're going to do a little investigation into 3, okay? Hopefully we'll get to the 3rd one, but let's just start with one of them. And I don't know if you've been shared this with you before, but okay, too bad. You're going to hear it again. It's something that the Malbim brings down from the scroll of Esther. Everybody knows the story of Esther, where, you know, there's a decree to kill the Jews. Esther, who is the queen, she has to go into the palace. She has to fast for 3 days. The entire people fast for 3 days. And finally, the 3rd day, she has to go into the courtyard of the king, risking her life. And she does it, and she goes to the king, and she makes a request. I want you to come for lunch. Right? I got a dinner. It's not a lunch. Dinner. I've got a dinner, right? I'm going to do some barbecue ribs, smoked ribs tonight, right? I don't think she said that. So she invites Achashverosh, the king, and Haman to a feast. Okay? And then she does that a second time. The first feast, okay? So they have it, right? And they're at the feast, the first one, and she says, and Achashverosh says, come on, man, what's bothering you, man? Just tell me what you want, man. I'm going to give it to you. Right? And she says, I want you to come tomorrow. I want another party tomorrow night. Okay? So Haman's there also. Okay? So Haman goes out, okay? He goes out in that day, and the language of the verse is Samech v'tov leiv. He's happy and he's good heart. Okay? Happy and good heart. And then, of course, when he sees Mordechai, who doesn't get up and he doesn't move, right? Of course, then he gets angry. But until then, when he left the Sudah, when he left the meal of Esther, he's happy. And the Malbim ask a very pointed question, he says here. Anytime that we mention happiness and Samech v'tov leiv, good heart. Okay, Samech is enough, okay, drank some wine. Tov leiv? Where does that come from? How can he be Tov leiv? Tov leiv? Good heart? What happened here? Well, what happened here, how he's come? The only Tov leiv that we have handed down in our tradition that's mentioned in the entire Tanakh, the entire Bible, always is only, there's no joy without mitzvah. There's no real joy without mitzvah. There's fake joy, outward joy, surface dika, we'll call it. You know, external, not a real joy, deep joy. And here's Haman going out with a deep joy. How can that possibly be, he asks. So the answer is, to cut to the chase, is because Queen Esther, of course, she prepared a meal. And she prepared, of course, it was galat kosher. It was a galat kosher meal. And of course, and he deduces, the Malbim, okay, the 17th century commentator on the entire Bible, says that the kosher food that he ate has an effect on him. Okay? It has an effect even on non-Jews. Kosher food. It's one thing. Red pill. Okay? It definitely gave him joy. It does something. Okay? An astounding idea. Okay? I'm sure you're already eating all glatt kosher, right? You're going to open up a marketplace right now? Rod, you going to bring some food here next time? If you need me to bring something from Belden's, let me know. So we see here the effect that Haman, who is not Jewish, ate kosher food, it had an effect on him. Okay? So even doesn't matter. Okay? Now here comes another far out idea, concept that always amazed me. This next thing that you have a sheet actually here. It's this sheet here. Not the one that says pillar of prayer on it. The other one that has numbers 21, 22, 23. This is actually from the Kitzer Shulchan Aruch, which is the concise code of Jewish law that we have. You know, our Jewish laws are big. There's volumes, many volumes. And there were certain authors in the past who, in order for the masses to get more, condensed and squished so that it wouldn't be too burdensome, because otherwise it was too much for the populace to grasp. And so to make it more accessible to the masses, so he basically, Rabbi Gansfried, condensed into a volume, or actually this is really 2 volumes only because of the translation, but it's called the Kitzer, which means the how do you call Kitzer? Abridged Jewish law. So in the abridged Jewish law, he brings the idea in the concept of mezuzah. Fascinating mezuzah. You guys got here, right? Awesome. So he brings something that I just love to read this all the time because it helps. The problem is, you know, we become too acquainted with it and then we forget. And so you always have to constantly be remembered. That's the problem. Familiarity. What's it called? Familiarity? Okay. I just call it forgetfulness, you know? Just forgetting. Okay. So he says here in paragraph 23, okay? He says, one must be very diligent to observe the commandment of mezuzah, because it is the obligation of everyone at all times. Wherever you enter or leave your home, you will encounter the oneness of Hashem, the name of the Holy One, blessed be He. First thing is, the Hebrew brings down by yivga, pega. You hit it. You hit. Okay? You hit the oneness of God. And then, of course, the next thing that happens once you hit the oneness of God, and recalling His love for you, His love for us, His love for creations. Thank you for that. That's the red pill right there. Actually, that's the blue pill. And recalling His love, you will awaken from your lethargy and cease going astray after the vanities of the times. Okay? And he brings that in the Hebrew, right? Vayizkor avaso, you will remember His love. V'yeor mishnaso, He will awaken from His sleep. That's the literal translation, okay? Here he just says you will awaken from your lethargy, but the Hebrew is, you will awaken from your sleep. But you're not sleeping, you're walking through a doorway, or are you? Okay? You know, I think, and I had this discussion with some people, I don't know, I remember reading in a psychology book that people are in a hypnotic trance, a big percentage of the day. Okay? They're walking in a trance. Yeah. Something like 70% of the day. What? Right? Because we're thinking about who knows what, and especially now this ADD culture, right? ADD, ADHD, right? You're taking your St. John's wort, popping this pill and popping that pill. 2 cups of coffee and the Frappuccino, right? So he brings down the language of V'yeur, he will awaken from his sleep. He will awaken from his, here they translate lethargy, and cease going astray, right, in the vanities of the time. V'yeda, and he will know, ki ein davar ha'omed le'olam le'olamei olamim ela yedias tzur ha'olam, oy, kavalt. And it says here, you will then realize that nothing endures, except the knowledge of the Eternal One, and will immediately return you to your senses and walk in the path of the righteous. It's a wake up. The mezuzah is a red pill. All the mitzvahs are red pills in different forms, but here's a blatant one that's supposed to smack you when you walk through a door. People don't do that. They don't get so smacked, right? That's because we just become too habituated with it. Maybe we should, like, I knew one guy, a friend of mine, he did a great thing. He flew to China and had to make something that when you go through a mezuzah, you press this button, and the button talks. It says, Shema Yisrael. It says in a French accent, because he was French. Thank you much. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Right? It was in French. I'm like, dude, can you get... It was a nice idea, because it'll awaken. It's supposed to awaken. It has to be like almost a meditation at the doorway before you go in and before you come out. Certainly when you're going from outside in, because you're caught up in the world. And you're coming back to home and coming back to base, coming back to your mind being settled and focused. So it's supposed to be a zap, okay? And will immediately return to your senses and walk in the path of the righteous. Our sages of blessed memory say, he who has tefillin on his head and on his arm and wears tzitzis on his garment and has a mezuzah on his doorpost is sure not to sin, because he has many reminders. And these are the guardian angels who save us from sin. And it is said, the angel of Hashem encamps around those who fear him and sets them free. Right? That's the mezuzah. As we know, the famous uncle list. You guys got a whole uncle list there. I see that. I don't know what. I know. What is that?
That's the commentary and Torah.
Whoa! It's like translates it literally. You know, eBay was in last week's parsha. It said the word eBay. eBay means fruit. Bizarre. I'm like. I had to look back and forth again to just like, is that right? It says eBay. Who came up with that? How'd they think about that? Was that dude uncle like who was that? An Aramaic guy? Aramaic expert? Let's just do eBay. Yeah. I'll show you.
He's making a lot of fruit off of that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So the idea really is Uncle brings down, of course, the story of Uncle was a bizarre, this convert, Roman, he was a nephew to the Roman Caesar, and they was furious that his nephew converted, sends legions to go pick him up, arrest him. And every legion sent, he converted him. So they didn't come back. They didn't come back, sir. Where are they? They all converted, sir. They're all studying in yeshiva, sir. Send another legion, right? Garrison, whatever. They didn't come back either. Okay, you're going the third one. Don't let him talk. Don't let him talk. Stop him from talking. So he gets to the doorway and he goes, just one question. In your kingdom, who's inside? Who guards the doorway and who is inside? And they go, well, the king is inside and the servants guard the doorway. In our realm, the king guards the doorway and the servants are inside. They converted them too. Didn't come back. Bummer. Bummer for them, right? So our sages the angel encamps around those who fear him and sets them free. Sets them free. Sets them free. Sets them free. Hello, red pill. Okay? Our sages of blessed memory also say, because of the sin of mezuzah, his sons and daughters may die young, God forbid, whereas one who is diligent to observe the mitzvah of mezuzah will have his days lengthened. Go figure, right? As it is said, in order that your days be lengthened and the days of your children. Gewalt, gewalt, gewalt. Amazing, amazing, amazing. That's in Yiddish. Second Yiddish word, gewalt. Okay? Have schwitz and gewalt. You will be tested. Write that down. Okay. Since the mezuzah serves as a reminder of the oneness of Hashem's name. Therefore, when leaving the house and when entering, you should kiss the mezuzah. But you should not place your hand directly on the mezuzah itself. That means the scroll. Everybody has a cover these days. It is therefore important to have a glass encasement, cover the name of Hashem. When leaving the house and placing your hand on the mezuzah, you should say, Hashem is my keeper. Okay, now this is important, and really you should write this down. I wanted to go ahead and write this on little things that you could actually stick in the doorway, because there's a big segula of the Ramban Nachmanides. Nachmanides was a huge Kabbalist who lived 1,000 years ago. He had a special segula that my Rebbe taught me. Segula means a certain act you do that perpetuates a certain manifestation. Okay? In other words, you do this, and you It'll perpetuate a certain reality. Okay? So my Rosh Hashiva told me this, and he says you have to place, okay, you kiss the mezuzah, you have to take your fingers and place them like this, 2 eyes, and this one covering, and then you say the words, actually. You say, Adonai Yishmor Tzei Uvoei Me'atav Yad Olam, Adonai Shomri, Adonai Tzili Al Yad Yamini, which means, they translate it here, it's better in the Hebrew, Hashem is my keeper, Hashem is my protector by my right hand. Hashem will preserve my going out and my coming in from now until eternity. To say these things, it's a segula when a person is leaving, right? That he has protection the whole day from any harm. In other words, he's bringing angels with him that'll protect him on the roads, for wherever he goes, that his going out and his coming in should be in peace. Okay? So, we see the mezuzah, though, the main thing that we see in the idea, the concept of the mezuzah is a wake-up. Man, that's so powerful. You got to stop, and you got to meditate, hit the oneness of God. God is all there is. The ultimate concept is all there is God. And to know that you were already connected to God. Because really, the only idea, the concept that we're not connected is an illusion. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's not real. We might feel disconnected. It's so not true. The klipa, the husks, the matrix, wants to make us feel disconnected, but it's not true. And the idea here is to wake up. You're waking up to the real reality, and the real reality is God is all there is. God is one. When we say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, because that's what's written on the scroll, that's all there is. And we're supposed to wake up to that and live out like that all the time. Okay? It's huge. Okay? The problem is we become accustomed to it. Okay? So maybe you change color of mezuzahs, be a nice one. Like we'll do pretty pink one day, and then the next week or something you'll do a different color. Maybe then people will start asking questions like, why are you changing the colors? I don't know. I'm just coming up with some ideas now, because problem is you get familiar with it, right? And that's the problem. You're not supposed to become so familiar with it. It's supposed to wake you up. And maybe even if you do become familiar with it, let's just say, subliminal, the wake-up is still there. In other words, it still hits you in your subconscious. And really, technically, he says to kiss the mezuzah, right? There is the minhag that people can just look at it also. Okay? In other words, if you don't kiss it, don't beat up anybody who doesn't kiss the mezuzah, okay? Hey, Louis, he didn't kiss the mezuzah. Go break his kneecaps. Okay? And now we come to la pièce de résistance. Okay? And this is from my Rebbe. My Rebbe is the Baal Shem Tov. Okay? I fell in love with the Baal Shem Tov. He was my first, I dabbled with some Hasidic masters. Not much. I was in Lakewood Yeshiva, which was a very Litvish style yeshiva, and they don't learn many Hasidic texts, and definitely not Kabbalistic texts. But they happen to have the Sogacheva Rebbe, who's called the Shemi Shmuel, on his shelf, and Baruch Hashem, it was on the shelf, and I was able to learn it because he was on the shelf. Okay, a commentary on the 5 books of Moses. Had deep stuff. But then when I got married, and my father-in-law, of course, and he opened and exposed me to the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael ben Rabbi Eliezer, who was the founder of the Hasidic movement 250 years ago. And the founder of the Hasidic movement who started everything, okay? I have a very emotional attachment to him, okay? And the biggest, of course, because this is who my Rebbe brought me to and exposed me to the books, and I would learn it pretty diligently, all of his Torahs, even though I didn't understand much of it, right? I still don't understand some of it. But what I do understand and what we're going to do today. Okay? So, the Baal Shem Tov, was known to be, literally it means master of a good name. And there were many Baal Shems at the time. A Baal Shem means somebody who uses a name. Meaning uses the name of God, uses Kabbalistic arts to effect healings, blessings, and different things. Okay? So, so he was, wellsprings of unbelievable stories are told about the miracles and the things that he would do for people, right? You know, God willing, I'll make a podcast of all the stories, you know. If there isn't already, there should be, okay? But this one particular Torah, and I still work on practicing to this day, comes out of a few verses from Parshas Noach. The Parsha of Noach, as we know, it was the Parsha of the flood. That Noach, of course, built an ark, and the ark was going to sustain him and the animals for a period of a year, while the flood waters raged, and until they finally went down, and finally he disembarked after about a year in the ark, right? And so when he gets the directive to build an ark, okay, so in the directive, of course, it's got to be so big in these dimensions, and he gives these dimensions. And in that verse, right, let me just find it here. Okay, so in the verse here, I'll just mention it for those listening. We call it, let's say, chapter 6, verse 16. It uses the language of Tzohar Ta'aseh Lateva. So it says, they translate, a window shall you make for the ark. And then the verse continues, Ve'al Amma Tichalena, and to a cubit you will finish it from above. Milamala Upeta. Okay, so in other words, you have to make like this, literally it means you have to make an angled, on the roof you have to make an angle, so the water doesn't collect in the middle, right? Upeta Chateva B'tzidan, you have to put an opening in the side of the ark. Okay, Tachtim Shniim Ushlishim Ta'aseha. So it says, a window you shall make for the ark, and a cubit, finish it from above. Put the entrance of the ark in its side. Make with it a bottom, second, and third deck. Okay, you have to make stories, 3 stories. So literally there's 3 stories because the humans, the people are on the 3rd story. The 2nd story had all the animals. And then the 3rd story, bottom, that was the 2nd story. The 3rd story was all the garbage, right? The refuse, right? Somebody had to shovel some manure, right? Ron, it's your turn today. How come it's always my turn, man?
Grew up doing it.
So in any case, the Baal Shem Tov always understood the 5 books of Moses, of course, and how we try to understand it today as we're going more inner. The world is going more inner, okay? Pnimiut. Because the external just doesn't do it for us anymore. Okay, the external, aspects, just they don't give us what our soul is really thirsty for. So the Baal Shem Tov explained that this, of course, and the revelation of Mount Sinai and the red pill of the revelation of Mount Sinai is a soul code. It's a code for the soul. Okay? In other words, it has to be talking to us here and now. It's not a history book, even though it's carved through a history. But it doesn't matter because God is infinite and there's nothing He can't do. And all of the lessons for us to connect to God are within every single letter that is contained in the 5 books of Moses. Okay? So it is a direct soul code. It has to have its application for us right here and now to connect. So of course, that's how his basic premise is of every single mitzvah in the Torah and every single story. Has to have an element of something for us in the here and now, right now, to connect. And so he says this, and he goes, Sohar, by the way, Sohar Taseh Lateva, it says here, a window you shall make for the ark. Rashi actually has 2 ideas or commentaries about it. Rashi says either it means a window or it means there was a precious stone. There was a stone that illuminates. They had such stones where the stone gives out an illumination. Okay? Very much like you'll have on the watch, right? It'll, right? So, but he says something different. Sohar literally means shining. Ta'aseh, you will make. La teva, which means teva is understood differently. One thing is ark, and the other idea, the other concept that he wants to tell us. The word teva also means word. Okay? So he says, if you translate it literally, it says, shining you will make for the word. Okay? So now we look at this. Okay? So you see here on the sheets that you have in front of you. Right, the portion of Noach, the book of Genesis 6:16 and 7:1. You shall make a shining light for the ark, and the covering from 1 cubit on top of it. Make it lower, second, and third stories. Come you and your entire household into the ark. So he's going to make the plain of the words of ark now. Okay? And the portion of Noach, there is a selection, number 15. Okay, that in other words, I have here, this is actually really a 2-volume set, of the Baal Shem Tov on the Torah, commentary. Okay? They have like a makeshift one you can get online of English, but it doesn't have it complete. It's just little parts they took out. And what happens is, all of a sudden in Parshas Noach, the entire commentary all of a sudden makes a left turn when it gets to this verse, and it goes to over 100 pages, all on the Baal Shem Tov's technique of praying. Okay? So there's a huge section here called the Pillar of Prayer. That's why the top is called From the Pillar of Prayer. Right? This is a huge deviation on all of the Baal Shem Tov's technique of prayer. Because don't forget, the Baal Shem Tov, he says, I didn't get my level, my spiritual level, from being a Talmudic master, even though he was a Talmudic master. I didn't get my spiritual level from knowing all of the laws, the Jewish laws. He got his spiritual level from 2 things, prayer and going to the mikveh. Okay? So prayer was a huge thing. Many of the Hasidim also. Prayer is big. Okay? Might be difficult. It's difficult for some people still, because we say, according to Rabbi Nachman, tefillah, prayer is in exile. Okay? Even definitely these days also. Okay? Torah is in exile. Prayer is in exile. We be in exile. Okay? So here he goes. In the portion, so that's what the pillar of prayer is called. It's this huge section that is in his commentary, from here to here. So in the portion of Noach, there is a selection, number 15, that's what opens up that part of the book, concentrating on the Rivash's method of prayer. Rabbi Shimon Menachem Mendel, he put this together because the Baal Shem Tov never wrote anything. All of his students, they basically quoted his Rebbe, and it was scattered over hundreds of books. And Rabbi Shimon Menachem Mendel gathered from all of those writings, a lot of reading, a lot of material to cover, and collected. Anytime anybody quoted the Baal Shem Tov, he put it into this work, and he put it in order of the Parshas. Okay? So he called the pillar of prayer based on the Mishnah. The world stands on 3 things. As we know from Pirkei Avos, chapters of the Fathers, the world stands on 3 things: on Torah, on prayer, and acts of loving kindness. So that's why he called it the pillar of prayer. Section number 15 contains much of the technical instruction on how to pray according to the Rivash. The Rivash is the name for the Baal Shem Tov, right? It's just a abbreviation, right? Rabbi Yisrael ben Rabbi Eliezer, or, okay, some people call him the Besht, okay? It is concentrated into a few short sentences. Afterwards, all the selections of this portion deal with prayer. We will quote the section in full and then they'll go back to deal with it piece by piece. But here we're just going to get a little tidbit, okay? The Rivash, may he rest in peace, said that the letters and words that a person speaks in his prayer and in his Torah study must be made to shine. And he gets it from there. You shall make a shining light for the ark. This is going to be like a little bit overbearing for some, okay? You have to talk about it, okay? And you have to start slow. And of course, if you don't know the Hebrew letters, it's time, okay? Even studying just the Aleph Beit, as we talked about last time, I was here, which was quite a few months ago, so, you know, we spoke a lot last time about the 10 statements of creation. That God, it brought down from the book of Tanya, that there's some chapters there would deal with Emunah, and the first chapter dealt with the 10 statements of creation when God uttered in Genesis, the very first chapter, and he says, God said, let there be light. God said, let there be a firmament. It's not that he made the statement and split like us. We make the statement and the statement is gone. The statement is still being said. The letters of those words that God spoke and creation came into being are still being said, and it gives every single thing in creation its inner animation. It is the life force of every single thing that we're involved in. If you'll recall from the Matrix, it all had those letters flowing down, right? What is that? Oh, it's random. It's not random. There's no random, okay? The letters really give everything, and there's many segments where he saw the people even looked like letters, and Neo saw that everything looked like letters. And the Kabbalists, they saw reality like that. In the deepest way, the Baal Tanya, before he was dying, he saw it's the letters. He saw the letters. He was telling the people at his deathbed before he died, he's saying the letters. Kuf, Vav, Reish, right? So he was saying the letters because the inner vitality of every single thing in creation, which I believe is probably going to be the superstrings if they ever get that, because the strings, the superstrings, which are the indivisible, the particles, because they're trying to get into the indivisible particles of the subatomic particles of the subatomic, trying to get in there, they can't, and they come up with the theory that it's a really tight wound string, but it vibrates. Letters vibrate, okay? Letters are vibrations. A, B, G, D. They have vibrations to them, right? That's how Moshe killed the Egyptian, by saying a name of God. And the Egyptian guy was dead. God spoke and the world came to being. But those words are still giving everything its animation. So now, given that, we use prayer also in the same way. As a method of knowing every single thing has a vibration. And that vibration is a letter. Because it's the spiritual building block of all of creation. And when we pray, we connect to that. We connect to the inner essence of things, okay? But let's just look at it right now for a simple technique. A meditative technique, okay? He says, because the word teva in the Chumash, in the 5 books of Moses, says word. Make the word to shine. Make the word to shine. It says all the letters exist on 3 levels at the same time. The levels of worlds, souls, and godliness. Okay? And this is really the 3 stories of the ark. See, the real concept of what I'm building here is what I'm telling you is the word. When we pray and when we learn and study, the word itself becomes our ark. It becomes a protective device, a meditative device, a red pill to connect. Okay? So, when it's said by the ark, you have to make a first story, second story, third story. The Baal Shem Tov is saying all of existence, all the letters exist on 3 levels, but really all of existence is like that. But you have to understand the letters exist on 3 levels at the same time. The level of worlds, this, souls, that's us. And then there's the holy aspect, the light that is giving the letters their animation. Okay? This is amazing. I explained that the Torah is the blueprint of creation. And it's not a blueprint like most people understand the blueprint that you make creation, you fold it up, and you put it away. It's more like a movie screen in the olden days. I don't know about digital, how it works, okay? But we'd have a projector, you'd have a film, and then you'd have the screen. That the light of God is that white, indivisible light, and the Torah is the film, and then it projects onto the screen, which is the world. Our world that we're in right now is a screen that is constantly being projected, its animation from the letters of the Torah. That's why all the time the rabbis are always seeking Haman min HaTorah, since we spoke about Haman earlier. Haman min HaTorah mi'ayin. Where is Haman in the Torah? Has to be there, because every single thing is in the Torah. Every single thing in creation, every single thing in existence has to have its root in the Torah, because it's the blueprint of creation. It's on the film. Where is it? And they find where Haman is, actually. It's when Adam ate from the tree of knowledge and went and hid. When he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, he realized he didn't have any clothes, and he went and hid. And God comes and asks him, Hamin ha'etz, did you eat from the tree? And he uses the words Hamin in Hebrew, which is Haman, which is where he was. The whole idea, the concept of absolute concealment and hiding. Okay? So he's there. Every single thing, and they ask this all the time throughout the entire Talmud. Where's this? Where's this hook? And the earlier you find it, the more powerful, the more potent it becomes. If you find something in the chapter of Genesis, it's very potent. And it goes the opposite. If you come up with a word that doesn't have any source in the Bible at all, so you'll know what it means. You'll know its meaning, okay? Such as the word, adventure. I wanted to call a class Adventures in Awareness, and I got shot down by some guy, right? Of course, I was got to get shot down. He says, there's no translation for adventure that's in the Torah, so therefore it's meaningless, right? I'm like, come on, man, just work with me. Because there's no really adventure. Maybe you'll say Havaya, which is like an experience. More like Havaya in Hebrew is more experience, not adventure. There's really no word for adventure. They do this all the time. There's certain school in Jerusalem. They love to if it does not in the Torah, it's garnished, right? I don't go to that school. And I never, God willing, will, okay? So this is it, chevre, 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 chevre. You have to make the words to shine. The words of your prayer have to shine. Okay, so it's a meditative technique as well. Okay, in other words, if you get to the level of practicing just saying the word Baruch. Baruch, is everybody familiar with the word Baruch? Everybody says the bracha, or you say Shema, right? You guys say the Shema, right? Shema is Shin. If you know what a Shin looks like, at least you should rehearse it. You have it written on the wall, right? So you should look at the Shin, and then you picture the Shin in your mind, and then you picture the Shin shining. You picture it shining as if that, let's say, picture a doorway that is closed, and there's a keyhole. And the keyhole is shaped like a Shin. And then behind that door is an infinite light that shines through that keyhole that looks like that letter. You with me? Okay? And you just say sh, okay? So in other words, and now if you can really get it really bright, that's the real technique, and get it brighter, and so bright that you disappear into the letter. That's what it means by you and your entire household into the word. If you can do that with a word now, let's say the word Baruch, you picture 5 doorways or 5 keyholes. And each of those letters, if you can line it up, picture it, look at it, right? Memorize it, just picture it in your mind, and then you picture it to shine with an absolute brightness. If this gets too heavy for you, by the way, like if you practice this tonight, right, and it gets too freaky, then don't do it, okay? I taught this to people, and I got emails, don't do that again, and Clay. This lady freaked out because the letter started talking to her, okay? Which is okay. I'm like, wow, I never get No, the letters do talk to me. It's just a different kind of communication. They do.
Yeah.
They're supposed to. I'm telling you from the depths of my heart. I'm telling you the insights that you get, that come into you when you do this technique. It is unreal. I cannot explain it. I cannot. All of a sudden, you have a question about something or concern or simple, all of a sudden, boom. Okay? It's an unbelievable way to connect to the inner aspect of all of creation. Because you become the conduit. Because as it says here, the letters exist on 3 levels, that's number 2. All the letters exist on 3 levels at the same time. The level of worlds, the level of souls, we sang it. And then there's the level of the godliness that comes from the infinite source into the letter itself. And we connect all 3. Reality just ain't what it used to be, okay? They ascend and connect and unite with each other with godliness. In other words, the letter you get to shine, and hopefully you can build a couple of letters, and then you build a word. And then the word is a real shining word, and then you imagine it shining so bright that you yourself dissolve into those letters, okay? Afterwards, the letters connect and unite to form words. Okay, here he's working just here on just one letter. In other words, ba, ba, Ruach. Okay? Afterwards, they form true unions in godliness. A person needs to put his soul into each aspect of the entire process that was described. Then all the worlds unite as one, and they ascend and make a tremendous joy and pleasure without limit. Okay? And these are the three levels corresponding to the three levels of the ark that was built according to the divine instruction, which was, make it with lower, second, and third stories. And these are the worlds and the souls and the godliness, as it is intimated in the Zohar, that there are three worlds we have, okay? Etc. Okay? This is his technique. If you were never exposed to it, you've been exposed. Okay? Like, how does a person ever finish praying? Well, maybe you can understand why he prayed for a long time. Okay? You'd never finish. If you go to a synagogue now, I don't think that in this country you'll find, maybe, I try, I attempt. I asked my father, my father-in-law, how is this possible? Every single letter, you've seen our prayer books? You got some here. Shachrit is 100 pages. What are you talking about? Right? He says, start with Baruch, start with the Shemona Esrei, start with Shema, start with just the word Echad. Aleph, Het, Dalet. Right? Just start with one letter at a time. Just work with that. Just start, but start. A person needs to hear each word that is being spoken. The Shekhinah, divine presence, is called the world of speech, because you have to hear it. As it is if she is the word or words that are being spoken. In other words, really, this is a very deep statement here, because it ends up being, when you're totally involved, it's not you anymore that's praying. The words are not you anymore. You become so united with all of creation that it is the Shekhinah, the divine presence, that is uttering the words. Okay? What that is a whole nother conversation. We're already out of time. The words must go out shining, as it is written. Make a shining light. He must, make gratification for his Creator, giving the God nachas. This requires great faith, because the Shekhinah is also called the faith of the faithful. You can meditate on this, right? I'm just going to kind of end it here, okay? So to go on here, a covering of 1 cubit on top of it. Now, if you look at it in the Hebrew, the literal Hebrew says, Va'ama, it says, Ve'el ama tichalena. Now, ama, the word ama literally means cubit, but in Hebrew it's also ima, which means mother. Take it to the mom. What is the mother? Okay? The mother is the source of all of our souls. When we pray, there's a thing that we have to say before we pray. And we say, behold, I now accept upon myself the divine command to love my neighbor as myself. You have to love everybody. All of creation. Right? And when you do that, so then you connect. You're connected to the unified souls of every single one of creation. So that's really what we'll call the mother. Okay? Because we do all come from one soul. One unified soul. We come from that. We're children of the Shekhinah. And what we need to do is reconnect with our source, which is this unified soul. Alternatively, it could be said that after the word has come out of his mouth, he does not need to remember it further. That's a relief. A person, in other words, you don't need to remember that word and then to work on the next word, okay? It's all a meditative technique here. A person should not see the high place where the words of his prayer are reaching. This high place cannot be seen, just like it is impossible to look directly to the sun. In other words, it can get so bright that you don't have to worry about trying to visualize it anymore. And that is why it is written a covering on top of it. In other words, you can end it at you don't have to follow the letter or the word all the way. Okay? How shall you do it? How shall you do it? Number 11, it is written, come you and your entire household into the ark, into the word. You must take all your body and physical strength and put them into the words of your prayers. In other words, you must take your entire mind with concentration of your thoughts and put them into the words of prayer. So here we have, through the very siddur, through the very prayer book, a very deep meditative technique. Okay? to visualize the letter, and each letter joins with a word. And then when you say it, if you're able to express it, going to a deeper level, okay? Because you become the conduit, which basically unites. Because within every single one of our surroundings, and I checked this out with my father-in-law because this was my idea, that since everything is made up of the letters, when you say the letter, you instantly hit the resonance of all that is around you with the same letter. And therefore it is awakened. I think I spoke last time about saying a blessing on a piece of fruit. And when you say the blessing on a piece of fruit and you say God's name, you awaken within the fruit the divine radiance that is within, the chiyus, the life force, the spiritual life force within that piece of food. And the same thing is when you awaken every single bit of the molecules of all of those superstrings around also become vibrating. And then when you say it and you elevate it up to God, also all of the sparks of all of everything get united with it. Okay? Unbelievable technique. If you were never exposed to it, now you are. So when I say getting out of the matrix, boy, this is getting out of the matrix. You use the letters. And when you do that, you connect with the higher realm. You connect with the essence of your soul and all of the souls. You connect with the inner depth of all of creation through the Hebrew, the 22 Hebrew letters, okay? That all of creation is existing in the innermost essence. So don't take light any blessing. It has a vibration, it has a thing to it, but if you can start to develop this technique, each letter of the Hebrew alphabet becomes a red pill to wake us up. Any questions?